Hello and welcome to the Veterans Transition Center of California. This is Veterans Voices with VTC. The purpose of this podcast every week is to talk about real stories of strength, survival, and hope. We love to talk to veterans. We love to talk to staff to see how we come together to support one another and make a difference in people's lives. So how you doing, Maddie?
Hi, Lisa. I'm doing good.
That's Maddie McNamara. She is our producer of the show. And I'm Lisa Kincaid. I am, I guess, co-producer. I talk a little bit, but yeah, so we're excited about some things happening here at VTC. Just to give you a quick heads up, today we have Will Myers, and Will is our Shelter Supervisor at the GPD program, and we'll let him talk to you a little bit about that. We also have Tara Gibson, and she's our Director of our Human Resources, and she does a lot of amazing things here at VTC, not only choosing the right people for the right jobs, but also all that she brings to VTC is pretty amazing. So, but before further ado, I would like to give a shout out to Trader Joe's here in Marina. They support our pantry on almost a daily basis by providing food for our shelves that are continuing to need extra support. So we want to just give a shout out to Trader Joe's in Marina. They've been amazing to our food pantry and to supporting our mission and our veterans. So thank you so much to Trader Joe's in Marina. We're so glad you opened. Finally, we were like waiting on the edge of our seat. Also, we have an amazing event coming up on Tuesday, Veterans Day, November 11th from 11 to 4 here at the VTC in Marina, 220 12th Street. It is called the Salute to Veterans Jamboree. This year, we have a special announcement because we are sponsoring this event. The City of Marina is sponsoring this event, so we want to give a shout out to them. We want to thank the City of Marina for always supporting the Veterans Transition Center and our mission for veterans, and they are the sponsor of the event. So it's going to be from 11 to 4 on Tuesday, Veterans Day, November 11th. We will have a special thing happening this year that we've never done before. Maddie, tell us about Veterans Alley.
Veterans Alley is a section of vendors dedicated to giving services to veterans. So we'll have free haircuts, free eye exams, free dental checkups, and tons of free resources for veterans to come and check out. So we hope that any veteran out there who hears this can make it November 11th in our Imgen parking lot, 220 12th Street. But yeah, we're really excited for Veterans Alley.
It's going to be fun. So that's going to be like probably 25 booths will be Veterans Alley, and then the rest of the vendor booths will be amazing crafts, food vendors. We're going to have bounce houses for the kids and bubbles for the kids. We're going to have a toucher truck for, we're going to have a police vehicle and a fire truck. It's just going to be a fun event. So please stop by and say hello. We'd love to see you. And we have a live music by the band Rockin' Foos. They're amazing. So anyway, please do come on Tuesday, Veterans Day at 11 to 4 here as we celebrate our veterans and honor them on Veterans Day. So I would like to introduce to our first guest, Will Myers. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
Please tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Okay. So I have pretty much been in social services since about probably 2010. Started off working in like an inpatient psychiatric, and then moved on to working at group homes, and then worked my way onto the county, and then back to working for nonprofits. So really, it's
lucky for us, I have to say.
Yeah,
lucky for us, Will. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Really, so the kind of trajectory that my career kind of took was just really kind of trying to get down to the root cause of some of the barriers that the folks that I saw in the inpatient were experiencing, whether it's interpersonal, whether it's barriers with organizations, with higher structures, that kind of stuff. And so, and just really kind of, again, just kind of did the stepping stone from, basically inpatient to, addressing those early on in life, and then working with the county to try to figure out those systemic issues.
And then you've been with VTC for how long now?
A little over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, goes quick.
Yeah. Tell us about your role here at VTC. So you are the Shelter Supervisor for GPD. We've done this before on the show, but I always like to remind people what that means. What does GPD mean? And tell us a little bit more about your role.
Yeah. So GPD stands for Grant Per Diem. It's a VA contracted program. Really, so like the logistics of it, it's typically a 2-year program. We really try to have veterans housed within about 6 to 9 months right now, though. And it's effectively it's a transitional housing program. The goal is to identify the veterans' financial needs, housing needs, medical needs, and really kind of trying to make sure that those are all being addressed as efficiently and effectively as possible. Obviously, we are a housing first model, which means that the goal that takes priority is getting them into stable permanent housing, whether it's through a voucher-based system, whether it's through private pay, however that looks based off of what their ability and what their needs and barriers are. So specifically my role, so like you said, I'm Shelter Supervisor, so I kind of wear a few different hats. Really kind of like the primary one that a lot of our veterans see right out of the gate is I do a lot of like the intake and admissions. So when we have a referral that comes in, I'm kind of like the front person for that. So whether it's getting referrals from the VA, from any of the, like the justice facilities, treatment programs, community referrals, other homeless agencies, we really get referrals from everywhere. And so when they come through, it's kind of our job to triage and, figure out, is it is this person actually a veteran? And if so, what program are they eligible for based on their VA benefits and all that. So once, I'm not sure how much further down the rabbit hole to go, but
no, we like to go down the rabbit hole because we want people to know. I mean, obviously, there are different organizations in different communities that we get veterans from that they send us, they're not able to care for them or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so when they come here, you guys decide, okay, what does this person need? Are they a veteran? Right. We are a veterans organization. Mm-hmm. And what do they need? Do they need emergency help right away? Do they need are they in for a longer commitment? Are they ready to make a change? So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're considered a low barrier harm reduction facility. And so, a lot of the questions that we get when we're getting community referrals is, especially because there are some agencies that aren't able to take veterans from certain backgrounds for whatever reason. One of the first questions we sometimes get asked is, do you take veterans with criminal history? Do you take veterans with mental health concerns? Do you take them, veterans with substance use concerns? And we do. So
we take everybody, right?
Everybody that can meet their needs.
Yeah. If we're able to meet their needs, we take them, which I think is something that we pride ourselves on here at VTC, is that we take people as they are, we meet them as they are. And obviously if we don't have a certain level of care to provide, so if they need a certain level of care, like in a hospital setting or whatever, we're not able to provide that, but we can definitely take them to where they need to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's amazing what we do here at VTC.
Yeah. And so that's part of the triage process also is, if we have a veteran who we don't have the capacity to meet their needs, which is very, very seldom that happens. We have a really great case management team, both with our TR program and then with also our transformative reentry, and then also with our VA programs. So I'm very blessed to work with the case managers I work with. But when we do have those situations where for whatever reason we can't meet a veteran's needs, we do try to refer them out to agencies or to organizations that would be able to help them out. We really try not to leave anybody just kind of floating in the wind. So we try to make sure that they get their feet down somewhere and try to make sure they're taken care of. So,
tell us a little bit more about the different housing programs within GPD. So, for example, when someone gets triaged, you take them in. Okay, so someone needs a place to stay for 3 days, or someone's ready to, commit to an actual program to change their lives, and they need someone to guide them through that. So, tell us the different programs that you place people in.
Yeah. So there's really two major VA programs that we operate. One is what's called Healthcare for Homeless Veterans, or HCHV. That's our emergency residential services program. And really that's kind of like the first step. If we have availability in HCHV, we really try to bring veterans in there, just because there's a little bit more oversight, a little bit more support right out of the gate. And so especially if we have veterans who have a lot of barriers, who have a lot of obstacles, that's really an opportunity for them to kind of get their feet grounded and at least kind of get them pointed in the direction that that they want to be headed.
Do most veterans from HCHV move on to GPD?
They do. Yeah. Okay. Mostly, quite a few, or so most of them do. There are some who go to different programs who we've actually had a few that have gotten permanently housed from emergency housing, which is fantastic, because that's our whole goal. But once they're in the HCHV program, the goal is to transition them over to a transitional housing or to a more long term that can help work with them to get them permanently housed. And so that's kind of the segue into Grant Per Diem, which is our more long term. It's our transitional housing program. And within Grant Per Diem, there's actually 3 different kind of sub programs or subsets. Really, we have what's called our Bridge program, which is typically for veterans who have either a Section 8 voucher, a HUD-VASH voucher, or something along those lines, because they're more likely to get housed more quickly, just because they already have that resource available to them. And then we also have what's called our clinical program, which is typically for some of our veterans who kind of have more high needs, whether it's mental health, whether it's substance use, and then we have our service intensive, which is kind of just kind of general service connection, or not service connection because that's VA, but general case management, just making sure that they're taken care of wherever they need to be. So,
and since starting at VTC, how has your perspective on the veteran homelessness crisis changed?
Yeah. So in general, my understanding of homelessness in general is kind of been there, just because I lived in Tulare County when it had a pretty significant homeless crisis. They still do to a certain extent. I drove through Fresno. I saw the encampments when I got to Monterey County. So I moved here about 2 years ago, and just seeing the need that's there, especially when you go through like Dorothy's Kitchen or certain areas of Salinas. And so I think kind of what didn't quite catch me is what percent, like how high a percentage we have of those individuals being veterans, and really just the need to kind of step up and to make sure that we're having nonprofits, and we're having the need for the nonprofits to take care of veterans when there may not be the capacity through other avenues to meet their needs and meet them where they're at. And so a lot of that, from my perspective, is having not just the tangible resources, but also having the case management and having the team that we have to work with them and kind of help them kind of understand where they're coming from, what their background is, how they got to where they are, and then to help them kind of figure out, okay, so you got here, like this is how we ended up here. So how can we, whether it's through personal choices or whether it's systemic issues or anything like that, how do we address those issues to get them and keep them stably and permanently housed? So that's kind of in a nutshell.
I think it's pretty remarkable because, as you mentioned in the beginning, is our housing first model. Mm-hmm. So when you mentioned the HCHV, is that right? HCHV.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that, we want them to have a safe place to sleep tonight, basically, to start things off. So, we are a shelter program first. We want people to have a safe place to sleep, food to eat, clothing, so that we can have some time to sit with them and find out what their individual needs are, right? I find that remarkable, and we pride ourselves on that, taking veterans as they are, whether it's, issues with PTSD or substance abuse or whatever, and it could all stem from PTSD. We don't know yet, so it takes a little bit of time to find those things out. So what motivates you personally to work with homeless veterans, and how has that impacted you?
So really, in general, working with homelessness, just the recognizing that we're, there's that kind of the colloquium or the colloquial term or phrase, I guess, that goes around that we're all, 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless. And so really, when I was growing up, so when I was a kid, I had a lot of friends who were housing unstable. As I moved into my career, having a lot of clients that, really learning their, hearing their stories and knowing their backgrounds, recognizing that a lot of the perception that's out there as far as, homelessness being a moral failing or, being because, people choose to be homeless, it's really kind of what motivates me is to try to, kind of disrupt that narrative, and let people know it's like, no, we have veterans who are coming in because they have PTSD and because they can't. They're right now at their basis. They're not able to maintain housing, or housing isn't available to them, or their income isn't high enough to meet, especially in more high income or high median income areas, being able to afford housing and being able to have all the prerequisites that go into needing housing, especially when we're dealing with individuals who have hit homelessness, and then continue to have barriers on barriers, whether it's losing our identification documents, or losing government support, losing their jobs because they don't have the clothes that they need to go to work. Just really looking at how things just kind of compound on each other, and really, it's something that's kind of smacked me in the face. I guess is the easiest way to say that.
The cycle or the link chain that continues.
Both. Yeah, really, because it's something that I've always been confronted with, and so at some point it kind of for the homelessness aspects specifically, at some point it just kind of hit me. It was just like, hey, like I need to do something about it. I can't be expecting anybody else to. So, or sorry, I shouldn't say can't expect anybody else to, but shouldn't just be expecting other people to. And as far as the veteran aspect of it, I've got a really good buddy who is a veteran who went through the ringer, and so being able to, me being a civilian, not understanding a lot of the stuff that our guys go through, but talking to him and hearing his circumstances and hearing him talk about like, hey, like, for him, all it took was somebody to basically sit with him and say, hey, I got you. Like, this is how we're going to get you to where you want to be. And doing that consistently enough that he actually believed them, and where he could actually trust them to do that. And so, especially for our veterans, being able to provide that consistency, or being able to support my team in providing that consistency is, I think, something that's really important.
Tell us a little bit more about building that trust. I mean, I think that's a really good segue here, because I think we do have to build that trust, and we want them to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to let you walk alongside me and help me put a personalized plan together that's going to help me change my life. So tell me a little bit about how you do that.
Yeah. So for me, there is obviously there's, like I said, there's the barrier of just being a civilian, where I'm very upfront with the guys and just tell them, like, hey, like I'm a civilian. I'm not going to understand what you went through, especially if they're combat. And being able to just, one of the things that they talk a lot about in social work education is like, not knowing, you don't know what you don't know. And so really being able to adopt that, not knowing stance and walk in and be like, I don't know your circumstances, so why don't you tell me about them? Like, as much as they're, and not prying and not really forcing it, but just letting them know, like, hey, this is a safe space where you can, if you want to talk, you can talk. If you want to rage out, you can rage out, as long as you do it appropriately. Like,
so creating that safe space really for them.
Really, yeah. And just, and reinforcing it, and just being able to adopt that non-judgmental stance, especially when we're dealing with veterans who have mental health struggles or substance use struggles. Being able to let them know, like, hey, like, I'm not here to judge you from whatever happened in the past. Like, our next step is basically one foot in front of the other. Let's move forward. And actually backing that up, because it's, our guys, whether it's their military experience, whether it's their experience on the streets and shelters, they're used to, a lot of them are very used to people saying, hey, I'm going to do this for you, and then not actually backing it up. And if we're... Or
I'm going to do this for you this one time, and then, and then get out of the way kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Or like the quid pro quo, like where it's, I'm going to do this for you, but you got to do this for me. And so for some of them, them coming into an environment where there's nothing expected of them just other than to follow the program agreements, is kind of a novel concept for some of them. And if when we're able to maintain that consistency, we're able to show them, like, hey, we're gonna continue to show up for you. With some of them, even through relapse, or even through mental health episodes, or whatever that looks like, letting them know, like, we're not just gonna give up and bail on you when things get rough. So.
Well, just to back up really quick, you mentioned the lack of resources. I know here at VTC we offer a lot. We offer on-site housing, a food pantry, clothing closet, different kinds of self-help classes. Is there anything that you hope that we can offer in the future?
So for VTC, I think is doing a great job with the aspect that we have. One of the things, referring to the concern regarding lack of resources, we live and work in a very high affluent area, which means we're looking at housing that is fairly expensive. And really when our team talks about lack of resources, it's a lot of what it comes down to is lack of housing resources. And I know we had kind of talked before the podcast about some of the income limits and some of the income barriers that a lot of our guys have, and some of them come out with military pensions and service connection and all these different things, and they're making $4, $5, $6 a year. But that's pretty few and far between. A lot of our guys are not making much, and even for our guys who have 100% service connection, I mean that's only $3,800, which in this area is not. It's not a whole lot. And so unless you have family or friends who are willing to kind of go in with you or to support, a lot of the concern, a lot of the risk there is getting them housed, but then also having that kind of that, not relapse, that's not the right word for it, but the recidivism coming back into homelessness because they're just not able to sustain the income. Or sustain the resources, yeah.
Going off of that, what is the biggest challenge that you see veterans come in and face?
That's a good question. There's quite a few.
We usually don't stump people on this show. That was a good one, Maddie.
Yeah, no, it's a good one because there's really a lot, and it really just depends on the individual veteran.
I can chime in on that. Before being in HR, I was in case management. I started as a case manager here in 2021. And something that I saw that was pretty common, no matter the background that they come from, is this sense of shame because these veterans, they were at a certain stature in their life. They were serving our country. They were, they had this sense of honor and pride, right? And whatever the circumstances might be that led them to homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless, there's this heavy, heavy shame and this heavy, this regret, this lots of that. So I think, no matter who walks through those doors, that's a common thing that I saw when I was in case management. Just that interpersonal, building that relationship, that trust, that safety that Will was talking about, is really important. Obviously, getting them in a bed with a house and a roof is really important first and foremost, but building that rapport the first week they're here, is also just as important.
Right. And letting them know that they matter, no matter where they came from.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Thank you, Tara.
Yeah. Thank you, Tara. And also, obviously that's a hurdle, right, and a mountain that needs to be climbed.
Yeah.
And so I think that being able to go alongside, building that trust, and being able to go alongside that person, knowing that that's a big mountain, building that trust in you at VTC, and then also starting within themselves. Well, how am I ever going to reach that type of thing? And getting them there is a huge hurdle, but to have someone that walks with them and building that trust, not only in that case manager or whatever, but in themselves, being able to know, wow, I'm going to be able to make it. And I mean, I'm sure it takes different times with different people. Like it might take a week, it might take 6 months, but I want to segue into this real quick because we've had a couple of veterans on this program, on the podcast, that didn't realize that once they graduated and if they fell into hard times that they could come back. It's a huge thing that VTC is just so open. We take them as they are. You've been here, you went through the program, you got off the street, whatever, but now you found yourself on hard times. We're here. And I always like to find a space in the podcast to say, if you're a veteran and you're listening to this, please make sure that you know how to get a hold of us. So this is the Veterans Transition Center. You can reach us by email at info@vtcmonterey.org. You can call the front desk.
831-883-8387.
Yeah. Or if you know a veteran that needs support, needs help, is in a crisis situation, please don't hesitate to give us a call because we will get you connected to someone right away. Let's see, what else did I want to ask you, Will? There's so much. Oh, tell us a success story that stands out in your mind. We always like to hear these stories. Keeps us going.
There's actually, there's quite a few. But one that I can think of specifically, it was a veteran that Francisco, our program director, and I had worked with. We worked with him pretty consistently, and he had, still has, but had a lot of just very difficult barriers to overcome. Some mental health, some substance use, which of course was coping for the mental health, and really, and then we had income issues. So it was just like a perfect storm of this veteran. Like, there was concern about not being able to get him housed, and one of the really great resources that we have, and really the projects that we have here at VTC is Life Fighter Village. And he was actually one of the first veterans to go into Life Fighter Village, because we were able to get him in on an income-based, or what they call an income-based or project-based voucher. That basically they don't take a blanket amount from the individual; they take a percentage of what their income is. And with his income being so low, there's not a whole lot of those programs available in Monterey County except through Light Fighter. So really, he was a tough one for us, but we were able to kind of work with him to kind of get him stabilized and get him the help that he needed in order to stabilize himself. And he worked very hard to maintain his appointments and to, show up where he needed to show up and to do his applications and do everything that he needed to do in order to get housed. He just really needed kind of the pat on the back and the hand holding to get to that point. Just like a lot of our veterans just need a little extra support. That's all he needed, is just a little extra support, and he was able to get permanently housed, when on paper there's no way that he should have. Should have from not from a moral standpoint, but from like just the amount of barriers that he had, the possibility of, like the probability of getting housed without that support is very low. And so because of the support that we were able to provide him, and the support that Life Fighter Village was able to provide, he did what he needed to, and he got in.
How long was that process for this particular individual?
It was so the Light Fighter process was fairly quick, because we pretty much knew as soon as Light Fighter opened that we wanted to get him plugged in. But
how long was he in our program?
So he was one of those that, or actually you had talked about, as far as the veterans who leave the program and then come back in.
Oh yes. Okay.
So I can't remember how many times he came back in, but he was with us for a little bit of time. Yeah.
I'm sure there are veterans listening to this program. I hope so. We're trying to get the word out. What would be your message to a veteran that's thinking about joining our program here at VTC on any level?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, if you're in need, like Tara was talking about, that shame and that comes with that. There's no reason to feel guilty or feel shame coming into the program. It's not. It doesn't make you a weak person to ask for help, and we're all at various points in our lives either have already or will need help, and it's there's nothing wrong with asking for that. From our standpoint, like I said, with the teams that we have in the VA programs and also the TR programs, we don't, when we have a veteran who comes in, it's not, we're not here to basically say, well, you screwed up or you did, whatever, you did whatever wrong. It's like, okay, how can we help you? And what can we do to get you taken care of? And really, if there's one specific thing that I would say to any veterans who are struggling right now, whether it's with mental health or substance use or homelessness or whatever it is, try to find the resources that you can and ask for help, because there's, I told one of my guys yesterday, I'd rather talk to him in person than see you on the news. So, yeah.
And that first step is the beginning of their success story.
Oh, yeah.
Them asking for help is the beginning of the success story for that
Absolutely.
individual. So,
yeah.
And we want to be a part of that story.
Yep.
Can you think of something that, or actually both of you, Tara and Will, if you would say one thing to the public about homeless veterans, what would that be? What would you want them to understand about homeless veterans?
That's a a good question. I mean, I think that there is, I feel like there's when, I don't know. I think it can go both ways. There is homeless veterans on the street corners asking for money, etc., and people can drive by them and think like there's so many resources for them as veterans. Why are they, standing out on the street? Why are they begging for money? And they kind of just move right on by like, well, that's their choice. Well, that's not necessarily the case, depending on, their discharge status, their, current standing, et cetera. There may or may not be any resources available for that veteran. So I think it's really important that people don't have this blanket understanding, like one veteran is not, what they have available to them is not for every single veteran, if that makes sense. And so I think that's why we strive to offer so many different services here.
So basically like a misconception, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when you drive by and you assume.
Yeah.
I think we assume so much in life about other people, especially people that are struggling. Mm-hmm. Or if, standing on the street corner, that's a great example. Because if they're asking for money, you must think, oh, they probably make more than I do,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And Will, what's your thoughts?
I think in general, with the unhoused population and specifically with our veterans, I think there's just a lot of stigma and there's a lot of, like you're talking about, misconceptions. And, especially when we talk about, our veterans who have substance use or have, PTS or have, other things going on, I think there's this perception that they're inherently dangerous individuals, or they're, and that's not to say that there aren't individuals who are, need a little bit more help. But the vast majority vast majority in my experience, are just men and women and families who need some help. And it's, like I said earlier, it's not a moral failing. It's, sometimes it's medical bills, sometimes it's car bills, sometimes it's a loss of a job. It could be any number of things. It could be that they relocate for whatever reason and things fell through, or because they were kicked out by family, or, whatever the circumstances are. There's just not, like I said, the vast majority of the experiences that I've heard, really aren't their fault. And, I think like there's just where that stigma comes in again, where it's like, there's this idea that there's a moral failing there, and that is something that they must have done, or, they're crazy, or they're, dangerous or whatever. And it's just not accurate.
Yeah, I mean, we brought this up before on the podcast, but there are a few out there that just they choose to be homeless, right? I mean, we offer people, offer them things, offer them resources, give them brochures and whatnot. But there are people that choose to live in these encampments or whatever. But the majority need help, and the majority, if they knew about a specific thing, that they would take advantage of that. Yeah. I'm just proud of the work that we're doing here at VTC, and Will, we're so grateful for all that you do and all that you invest in each and every veteran that comes through our doors. So thank you. And I appreciate you being on the program, but you're not leaving. But I want to give Tara a chance to talk a little bit about herself. Tara, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for joining in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you started and when you started here at VTC.
So as I previously mentioned, I've been here since 2021. My background is in social services. So I worked with foster youth before this in Salinas. I worked with domestic violence survivors, women here in Monterey County. Honestly, how I ended up with veterans is one of my friends that I worked with at the foster program that I was with in Salinas said, you've got the skills, like we really need that over here, et cetera. So I gave it a shot, and I was honest in my interview. I said, I've got no understanding of veterans or their benefits or the military. Am I going to be quizzed on branches and service? And they just laughed and said, no, it's just about what you can, offer these veterans. So I come from social service background, and I've been here since 2021, started as a case manager. and then kind of worked my way up into HR. My master's degree is in industrial organization. And so I'm really passionate about creating structure and policy and procedure to support those on the front lines of the company, to help sustain them and give them all that they need in order to thrive as they serve our clients, our veterans. So that's why I kind of went towards HR, and we're growing so much. My bosses, acknowledged that I have this degree when I graduated, and they were like, okay, look, you're a great case manager, but we need an HR department. And so they kind of recruited me to do that. And I just started our HR department from absolute scratch, which was real fun. But it was a great learning opportunity for me and the business, and it's been great. And I really take what I've learned in case management and I apply it every day in HR with my hiring practices. And so that's a little bit about me and my background.
Well, and tell us a little bit more about the most important tools that you provide employees to thrive in their particular role, because we have several different departments, so there are different roles. So tell us a little bit about some of those tools that you provide our employees.
Well, I think one of the big ones is benefits, obviously, in HR. A happy employee is what we aim for, right? So really ensuring that come open enrollment time, I'm assessing the needs of our staff, and every, person-centered approach. Just like in case management, I look at each staff member and their life situation, and I kind of, okay, what is this person? What would really help this person? Should we do an FSA? Should we do this? Should we, do a gym stipend? Should we, and because the executives here have really high trust in me, and I'm very thankful for that. And so I reevaluate every year and see what I can do. Something that I implemented that may seem small or silly is your birthday off paid. And I think, your mental health, your well-being as you serve these veterans is really important. Coming into work and you are, you're helping somebody who has a lot on the line. It's like are they going to sleep inside tonight? Like, are they going to eat today? That's a lot on a case manager. And so if I can support the case manager in any way, in whatever capacity, that's what I want to do. So.
What do you enjoy most about your job? I mean, I know you wear a lot of hats. We've seen it. We've watched it. And you've given us definitely tools to be successful in the marketing and development department. So we thank you for that, by the way. So tell us a little bit about what you like most about your job on the daily.
Yeah. So I really like the trust that management has in me. They trust because I've been kind of, quote unquote, on the front lines in case management. They are confident in my ability to develop and maintain policy and procedure that is applicable to our mission and what we do on a daily basis. And so I really appreciate the trust that they give me. And also I really love I'm a policy nerd, so I like to stay up to date on, the law changes and all that kind of stuff. And so
to keep us compliant,
we
have to be compliant.
All the stuff that is the back room, nobody cares about that. But yes, so I love that. And I also really love, assisting from time to time. I'll assist marketing and development with the statistics of our veterans. And, I really like data. I like numbers. And so gathering that information and seeing if there's any trends. So if there's any trends in what types of veterans come into our program, what types of, and so I like to do that, which is not really in my lane, but I like to do that because if there's something that stands out, I can then develop some sort of policy that maybe we didn't know we needed, because we keep getting veterans that, have, I don't know, mobility issues. So do we need to enhance our driver's program? Do we need to change anything in that realm of VTC? So yeah, I just kind of like to help out wherever I can.
Well, I have to say that, Maddie and I can thank you big time, because part of our job is getting the word out to the community is not only our impact, but how we go about doing what we do. Because if we're asking for donations for our food pantry, for example, or if we're needing to increase our donations because we're increasing our staff, and asking for that kind of thing, it's information that we need to get out to the community that's extremely important. So the amount of veterans that we served over time, you helped us with that data. The number of people that come through our pantry, their highest level of need and care, is really important for us to be able to communicate that to not only to the people that want to give, but also just to let the community know why we're here, who we're serving, what we've done over time, because the community does deserve to know how have we impacted, how has our need increased, and why. So that information is extremely important. So thank you for helping us with that data, and it continues to grow and change.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And we're just adding this thing in our lobby so that when people come into our lobby, they can see how many veterans we've served in our pantry in the past year, or how many beds we filled with veterans in need over the past 6 months. And it's that type of information. It's not that we want to brag, but it's that we want to be able to say, this is what we're doing. This is what keeps us thriving and going.
Yes.
It's because of our purpose and our mission. So.
Yeah.
And Tara, how does the whole onboarding process work with case managers?
I was a one-woman team for a long time in the HR department, but I just got Victoria, who is my HR generalist. She's so incredibly helpful. So she has done quite a bit of helping me with that. But the policies that I put into place, or that I kind of structured, I created our first kind of structured hiring process. It's a 2-phase interview. You reach out to us. We do kind of the, first interview with the program director that you're applying with, and maybe a couple staff members from that department. And then the second interview, if you move on to phase 2, would be with executives. And then, of course, the references and et cetera. But something that is really important to me, just because, once again, I've been on the other side of it with case management, is, finding the right person who's got the right, drive and the right initiative, because, you can have a degree. You can have a master's degree in social work. You can have a bachelor's degree in psychology. You can have, the applicable, quote unquote, education. But if you don't have that trauma-informed care, that person-centered approach, that real desire and passion to change and impact lives, if you don't take that very seriously, if you're just coming in to clock in and clock out, it's just not going to work. We've gone down that road, and unfortunately it's, we've learned our lesson. But, so I am trying really hard to have a robust hiring process, because who we're serving, it's very important to me. And I take my job very seriously in that sense, because, it makes or breaks these veterans' futures. The case manager that you're paired with can make or break your future. And so, I just take it very seriously on what policies and procedures I put into place, and especially for hiring.
Right. No, that seems great. You want to know exactly who you're hiring and get into their head a little bit, into their headspace. How do you pair? It might be more of a question for Will, but you might know too. Pairing veterans with the case manager. Is there anything extra that goes into that?
I mean, I think Will can speak more to that, but just from my experience in case management, it is A, your caseload, so there's that. But then B, if there's a flag for that veteran, if there is anything that stands out, if there's, something that somebody like a case manager has a specialty or a focus in, the director will work with the intake coordinator or the shelter supervisor and place that person with the right case manager. And I think, Will can speak more to that because that's his role.
Yeah. So typically when we do have a veteran who's coming into the program, whether it's HEHV or GPD, if they're coming into HEHV, there's just one case manager over there. So it's not, there's not a lot of wiggle room there. But when it comes to GPD, we do have, right now we have 4 case managers and we have a case management supervisor. And so like Tara was saying, I mean, some of it's just like whoever has availability. If I've got, 3 case managers who have 14 and I've got one who has 10, it's going to be, and unfortunately it's just going to be that case manager. But there were, especially when we were building up census, there was a little bit of opportunity with that. And, a big part of that is working with a team or working as part of a team with the case management supervisor and the program director to, so Francisco and Serena, to figure out, who would be the best fit. And we would have, some veterans who came in it was very clear at their pre-screen, like, this person needs a little bit more TLC, like, they need more kind of like soft-handed approach, whereas we may have this other veteran who needs kind of more like a no-nonsense, like very strict barrier, like, no, like this is the line, you're not going to cross it. And we have case managers who, I mean, all of our case managers are capable of doing both. But we definitely do have case managers who are more, who can be more one than the other. And then obviously if we have a veteran who has a lot of really high significant needs, typically they would go to the case management supervisor or sometimes the shelter supervisor if there's overflow needed. But yeah, we do try to tailor as much as we can. Because like Tara was saying, I mean, absolutely, the case manager that you have can make a significant impact on the veteran. And especially, like I said, right now, we're very blessed that we have a really great group of case managers, all of whom care very much about their guys, even if they're pulling out their hair sometimes. But they really are committed to, getting our veterans supported and housed. So yeah.
Which goes back to what Tara was saying about hiring the correct person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, do we have any openings that you would like to share with the community? Are we looking to fill some positions out there? Please
yes.
tell us about those.
We're in second phase interviews right now with some candidates. So if you're interested, apply very quickly because we're closing it very soon. There's a case manager for the in-prison, the ARG program. And that's going in and recruiting, going into prisons and recruiting and telling people about VTC and the services that we offer here. It's veteran specific. So there's that case manager. It is a mix between having a caseload here at VTC and traveling to all the prisons in California and just informing them of us as a resource for the veterans there. And then GPD has a really solid team right now. And although I would love to add more people to my team, I'm good right now. So I think that might be it right now. And our listings are on Indeed. They are still open.
That was going to be my next question. Where'd it go? Indeed.com. Cool.
Yes.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us today. This is such an important podcast. I mean, it's my first podcast experience of my life. Has been the last few months. How about you, Maddie?
Yeah, and it's been a great one so far. I love hearing everybody's experiences.
It's been a great ride for sure. And I'm always hearing different perspectives because we're in the business of doing that as well, hearing from our veterans, but hearing from each other too that work here on staff. It's just hearing your perspective, hearing your experience, hearing how you look at things, I think is really important too. And, before we end this podcast for today, do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to add? Tara, you go first.
I don't. I just thank you for allowing me onto the podcast. I'm in HR, so there's not a whole lot to say, but I do want to highlight, Will as shelter supervisor. He is pretty much the backbone of that program, and he does so much.
More than he mentioned.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, come on, Will.
Oh my goodness.
Don't be shy.
He does a lot. And I think, it's on the job description and it's not on the job description, and I think that's when you find employees that go above and beyond the way that he does is you really want to keep them. And, from going from unit to unit, down where our housing is and checking on them, safety checks or not safety checks, and making sure that, I had a veteran walk into the front lobby here, and I was like, hey, there's a veteran here, like it's a walk-in, I don't know what do we do for that? That's not my lane. And he's like, oh, here's this form. Like Will created this form. It was like a list of all the local resources, like all this. It was like, I don't know if you know what Sam's Guide is, but like all these resources for this veteran to take away. So we were full, our wait list was full, but yet Will made sure that this person didn't walk away empty-handed and had next steps and stuff like that. So there's just a lot that case managers here do, but the shelter supervisor is a very special role, and I just wanted to maybe highlight that because he's not going to toot his own horn. So
Thank you, Tara.
Yeah.
How about you, Will? Closing remarks.
First, thanks, Tara. I do appreciate that. So the only thing that I would really add is just especially if you're looking at trying to apply or you're looking at trying to send somebody over here. I've worked, like I mentioned, I've worked for county, I've worked for profit, I've worked for nonprofit, I've worked all over the place. And one thing that I can say definitively about VTC is I haven't worked in a place quite like VTC where you really have that care and compassion and commitment at all levels, whether it's basically from the executives down, and really the executives set the tone for the rest of us, and kind of to toot Tara's horn also. I mean, like I mentioned to you guys, I mean she's helped me out more times than I can count over the last year. So our HR team is amazing, our executives are amazing, and really just very, very blessed and honored to be a part of this team.
You said it. I feel the same way. So before we go, I would like to just thank our listeners for joining us today. And please tell your friends. We do thrive on not only grants from the government, grants from organizations, but we do need your help on an ongoing basis. If you would like to donate to VTC to help us with our increased staff, with keeping our lights on, with our food pantries, things that are not covered by grants that we do receive, please don't hesitate to give us a call, or you can go to our website, vtcofcalifornia.org, and click that donate button. We are reaching the end of your giving time, so if it's on your heart to give to the Veterans Transition Center, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for joining us. This is Veterans Voices with VTC. You can find us at vtcvoices.org. That's where our podcast, or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also every Wednesday at 4:00 on Santa Cruz Voice, you can hear our podcast. And thank you again to Tara and Will for joining us today. And Madison, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for hanging out with me today.
Always a pleasure, Lisa. Thank you both, Will and Tara.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.